share the screen.
Where are you live streaming this? You haven't told me this. Where are you live streaming this?
It's on YouTube.
I didn't know this. It's not okay.
A very warm welcome to all our participants. Thank you all for joining in. It's a lovely afternoon and we are all set to begin with our today's session. We all know that humans are wired to listen to stories and metaphors abound for the narrative structures that work best to engage people. When I think about compelling presentations, I think about taking an audience on a journey. A successful talk is like a miracle. People see the world differently afterward if you frame the talk as a journey. There is no way you can give a good talk unless you have something worth talking about. Conceptualizing and framing that what you want to say is the most vital part of the presentation. Let's hear it from our expert today, who will be sharing the experience and tips on making a killer presentation. HR Association of India welcomes you all to the 2021 Dialogue Masterclass series on the topic 4 Tips on a Killer Presentation. To know more about HRAI and its event, I would request all our participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. Request all the participants to kindly follow the webinar guidelines mentioned in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request all the participants to kindly give your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker for today, Ms. Deepika Singh, speaker and digital content creator, life skills and motivation, she means business. After 15 years as a marketing professional with leading brands, she chose to be an experiential learner, trainer, and motivational speaker. She helps people identify and amplify their own key strength through a series of uh, experiential exercise, extraordinary stories of successful people, and usage of powerful tools such as storytelling and continuous learning. She brings humor, engagement, reliability, and all her workshops and speaker sessions. She believes all of us have it in us to be a more impactful version of ourselves given the requisite tools. You will find She Means Business content on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also follow her on LinkedIn. Details for the same have been mentioned in the chat window. I now hand over the platform to Ms. Deepika Singh. Over to you, Deepika.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. I'm so sorry for this time issue. There was some misunderstanding about the time and the date, etc., which is why this little confusion. But as Peter said, I do work as a communications coach. If you're on LinkedIn, you will see me a lot of times, talking about communication, doing a lot of videos, etc. So it's my forte. I also coach people on communication. I'm going to quickly leave behind 4 tips. This is going to be a short session. I'm going to leave behind 4 tips for a killer presentation. It is said that people hate giving a presentation even more than they hate, possibly a dead animal in their bag. I think it's a fear of being judged. The fear that if you're going to go up in front of people, then people are going to judge you on what you're saying, how you're looking, the concept that you're presenting. Is your idea good enough or not? I think it's the fear of being judged, really. Mostly it's that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave behind 4 tips for you to give a killer presentation. And my first tip really starts with body language, right? Body language is when, I've often said this, that if you look confident, you will feel confident, right? So think about the opposite. When you're feeling confident, you look confident, because your mind tells your body that you're in a comfortable situation, right? You're with friends, or you're with colleagues that you like. So automatically, you're standing taller, straighter, you're smiling because you're feeling confident. So you look confident. So if you do the opposite, if you look confident, if you teach yourself good body language, if you look confident, then automatically the reverse happens. Your body tells your mind that, this is a comfortable situation and it's okay. You can handle it, right? So my first tip really is to work on your body language, right? Taller, straighter, stomach tucked in. I have a little tip that I'm going to share with you, which is, you when you're standing, you stand with your feet shoulder length apart, right? So stand with your feet directly underneath your shoulders. If you see a lot of TED talks, if you see TED speakers, that's the way they stand, right? They stand with their feet directly in line with their shoulders, and your weight distributed equally between your feet. It makes you feel very grounded. It makes you feel very straight and tall, and you just feel very confident. But that's a tip I'm going to leave you. I'm going to give you another tip on this. Sometimes standing straight makes you feel very nervous because you have all this nervous energy and you want to expend it. Uh, so you just feel extremely, nervous. You want to do something. Again, if you look at a TED talk, they give you that little red carpet, right? And you will see people walking around that red, carpet. It's that little area. I call it my box of comfort, in the sense that 2 steps here, 2 steps here. आप 2 steps इधर करेंगे, 2 steps इधर करेंगे ना, थोड़ा सा चलेंगे, आपका एनर्जी एक्सपेंड होगा, and you will, so your the nervous energy that you have, the energy that's making you feel very nervous, that will get expended in those 2 steps here and there that you will take, right? So if you're feeling really nervous, just walk 2 steps here and there, and you will be fine. So that's my tip number one. You really have to work on your body language. The second tip that I'm going to give you is the start of your presentation. If you start well, it is half the game, because think about it this way. You've gone up in front of people and you have to say something, right? And some people could be writing something, some people could be on the phone, WhatsApp, some people are talking to each other. Now you need to gather all their attention and you need to focus that on you because you're going to start speaking. At that point, if you don't get their attention, then you will never get it, right? You've lost them, right? So when you start speaking, everybody needs to look up and you have to gather all of that attention. How do you do that? You do that by being very, very relatable. So again, 2 tips. One is to either start with a story because people love stories, right? So either you start with a story that people will relate to, people will want to listen to, or you start with something that they will relate to. So know your audience really, really well, and you will start well with a story or a joke or something that makes you extremely relatable, and then automatically people will, connect with you. So start very, very well. I generally, I prepare my speech. I know what I'm going to talk about. I prepare my flow. But the beginning of every speech, every video, the first 2 minutes, I actually practice. I script it and I actually practice because I don't want to mess that up, So you have to actually practice and start with a bang. You will gather attention. Suddenly people will look up and say, oh, this is good. Let me listen, So your start needs to be very, very strong. My third tip is all about storytelling. It's all about storytelling. What is really storytelling? It is such a buzz nowadays, So I define storytelling into two, really. I say that storytelling, one is to use stories to explain everything. These could be stories from your life. These could be stories from Mahabharata, for all you care, right? But stories help you relate with people. So nowadays, for example, my husband is listening to a podcast, which is all about the Mahabharata. And then he uses that, to have business conversations with his clients. So he'll pick up some incident, he'll pick up some story, and he'll use it, to talk to his clients and relate with his clients. That's one aspect of storytelling. So take stories that can help your our clients and people who are listening to you to actually relate to the situation and relate to what you're talking about. The second aspect of storytelling is your narrative style. How are you giving the presentation? Some people will just say slide one, slide two, slide three, slide four. When you're narrating a story is always logical. पहले ये हुआ, फिर ये हुआ, then this happened, then that happened. So there's a logical flow to every story. Similarly, there needs to be a logical flow to your presentation. There has to be a beginning, there has to be a middle, there has to be an end. You have to make a story out of your presentation, right? So that way you will never forget your presentation, right? You will never forget slide ke baad kya hai, what comes after this slide. You will never forget because for you in your head, it's like a story. We have done this research report because of this. The findings were this. And then we discovered this, which led us to this conclusion, right? So your presentation should also flow like a story so that you actually really, enjoy. People are also listening to you. They also they also understand and relate to your presentation. It's not like some random numbers or slide after slide. No one's going to be interested in that. So storytelling is way better than just giving a simple gray presentation. Sometimes you don't even require numbers and slides. Sometimes if you're a good speaker, you can and you have a great story, you will be dependent upon you will have a PPT, but you will not be dependent on your presentation to actually explain what you're talking about, right? My fourth tip today, and I will take a lot of questions after this. My fourth tip, so we spoke about body language and how important it is to practice your body language. Body language should be a intrinsic part of your nature. You should always stand tall. Even nowadays on Zoom, for example, everything is happening on Zoom. Till the world really opens up, it is still Zoom, right? So you have to keep yourself slightly away from the camera. You should switch your videos on. Trust me, it's very difficult for a speaker like me when videos are not switched on. You should sit straight, stomach tucked in. All of this you should practice, 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 practice till it becomes a hobby, because a habit. Because what happens is when you're in a stressed situation, in a pressure situation, right, you will automatically go back to being your non-confident body language. So you have to practice it so much that it becomes a part of you. That was the first. The second tip, of course, was to start strong. The third tip was all about storytelling. And my fourth tip, which most people forget, I think people don't even realize how important this is. Your presentation is not about you. Your presentation is about your audience, right? You are just a conduit to take a message and give it to them. So don't worry about how you're looking, what you're saying. Your focus should be the audience. What are they learning from you? Will they understand what you're saying? Are they having fun? Are you entertaining them? Is there a story that you're saying? So you put your focus on your audience and automatically, um, automatically you will really get better at your presentations. Like I said in the beginning, most of us look at presentations, we fear presentations because we feel we are being judged. But you're not being judged. Our audience is actually our friend. Think of your audience as your friend. 75% of your audience wants you to succeed. You will find people looking at you and smiling and nodding. I feel very scared when I see a nervous person go up on, give a presentation. I feel nervous. मुझे लगता है कि, oh, I hope this person does a good job. So most of the audience is very, very friendly. They're your friends. So don't be scared of them at all. Audiences are friendly. In fact, I have this tip that I give people, which is to do with eye contact. Where should I look? A lot of people ask me, where should I look? When I'm speaking in front of an audience, I always say that find the most friendly face in your audience, right? Look around. If you see a friendly face in your audience, lock eyes with that person. That is your friendly face, and that is your eye contact person. So look around the room when you begin, find 2 or 3 friendly faces and make eye contact with those faces, right? They'll be the people who will be looking at you and smiling and saying, yes, yes, you can do a good job. Those are the people you make eye contact with. So my fourth tip is to really use your audiences. Think of your audience as your friend. Don't get nervous, don't get scared. Treat them like your friend because most of your audience wants you to succeed. Unfortunately, this is something that we never think. They're so fearful of an audience. Oh God, they're just sitting there to pull me down. Oh God, they will find holes in my presentation. So most people think like that. One more thing I want to say is that from audience perspective, always be prepared with what you think your audience is going to ask. So when you're preparing, in your head, make a list of all the potential questions that you will get, right? All potential questions that you will get, make a list of that, and be ready with the answers because that will reduce your nervousness, right? So when you're going for a presentation, preparation is key. Even the biggest speakers prepare before any presentation, right? But here's the thing, you have to prepare not just the presentation, you also have to prepare what happens after the presentation, which means the questions. Because again, that ambiguity can also make you feel nervous. If you're feeling, you don't know what people will think, what people will make a list of questions. Everything that you think could be hurled at you, you will feel very, very confident because now you've prepared for all the questions that are going to be thrown at you. I always do that. Every time I have to do a presentation or a workshop, I try and prepare as many questions as I possibly think so that I'm prepared with the answers. That leads to a lot of confidence as well. These are my four most common tips. And I say that, these are important because a lot of people don't really think of these very, very common tips. Very, very common tips, which most people don't think of these at all. But just these four things can actually make you feel so good with your presentations, storytelling. And storytelling also, use stories from your life to present. Every time I start a workshop with a new set of doubt, and if I have more time, then I start by saying, I used to work with Kingfisher Airlines. And when that folded up, I didn't want to make a CV and go look for another job. I wanted to try something of my own. I always start with a little story because it helps people connect with me. Oh, even I want to start something of my own. Here's a girl who wanted to start something of her. Everybody wants to start something of their own. Everybody has entrepreneurship tira. So the minute I say that, it makes people connect with me. So I've started strong and I started with something that makes people relate to me and I started with a story. Three things in one shot I have done. So these are the four things that I'm going to leave you behind with as far as presentations are concerned. Don't fear presentations. I'm doing a workshop with small children also where again, the questions are the same. And I see that the questions that these 10-year-olds ask me are pretty much the same questions that adults also ask me as far as presentation skills are concerned. It's the same. What if I forget? I feel very nervous before I start. What if people are not listening to me? What if somebody starts speaking before, while I'm speaking? The questions remain the same. The 10-year-old asks me the same questions as a 35-year-old or a 40-year-old. I think presentation skills, I started public speaking when I was 13. One of my teachers, she pulled me out and she said that, your narrative style is good, your English is decent. I'm going to make you the debater, inter-class debater. So she picked me out, she trained me. That was my first experience of public speaking or, giving a presentation. And I realized that I quite enjoyed it because I like being in front of an audience. I like speaking. I like putting my this thing across, thoughts across. But I realized that over time, it has gotten better. So public speaking, giving a presentation just gets better with time. The trick is that you have to think about, you have to be really mindful. This is not your last presentation. There'll be so many more presentations. So if you make mistakes in this presentation, it is fine. Learn from them, grow, and then in the next presentation. So if you went into this presentation unprepared and you realize that next presentation, ensure that you will never go prepared. So take every presentation as a learning for your next presentation. It's a lifelong. Speakers and presenters are formed over life. Nobody is born. Some people are, but most people are not born great presenters because everybody's scared of audiences. But I think what we do is we build over time. We build and practice over time on how you can become a great presenter. So you have to take all of these elements, your body language, how you speak. What happens if you forget? Nothing happens if you forget. You're giving a presentation and you forgot. So what? No one is judging you on your memory. People are judging you on the content, right? So you can always pause, take a sip of water, and say, "Sorry, I forgot. Let me think about what I have to say next." It's perfectly okay. In fact, the more mistakes you make, more people will look at you as, you're human. You're human. You're human, right? So it's okay. People will actually relate to you. Nobody will worry about, nobody will judge you. So it's okay to make mistakes as well. Presentations, keep practice. Raise your hands every time there is a presentation to give and you are a group activity. See, I will do this. Treat it like practice. The more you practice, the better you will get at speaking and giving presentations, right? One last tip that I'm going to leave you with. When you forget, I'll give you a little tip that I always use when I'm giving a presentation or a talk. I keep a sheet of paper with me with keywords of what comes after next. So, for example, I will write train story, then I will write some other little short word. So I just have to glance at the paper and I remember what I have to say next. Because PPTs and lamba sentences, long sentences, I will never read. I'll get more confused. But one word keywords, just give me 1 second.
Request all our participants to kindly stay tuned. We'll be having Deepika back shortly.
I'm sorry, I have a bit of a crazy time schedule. I'm so sorry. So basically, I'll come back to what I was saying, which is a sheet of paper with, just one word keyword. You glance at it and you know exactly what you're going to, speak about. It helps me to never ever forget. One thing, of course, is to prepare your presentation, right? One is to always treat it like a story and always know the flow of the presentation in your head, right? But we're all human, we will forget, right? So always keep a backup in terms of a piece of paper with little keywords in front of you. Even if you forget, you just have to glance at the paper and you will remember what you have to say next. But we're all human, it is okay to forget. So every time you're giving a presentation, if you forget, admit that you've forgotten. I have found that being authentic and admitting something like this always helps. Just for me to say, oops, I'm so sorry, I completely forgot. Let me just refer to my notes, or let me just refer to my presentation. People actually connect with you more. People actually connect with you more. So I think it's perfectly okay to, admit that you've forgotten and just move on as fast as you possibly can. So I have a lot of tips on presentation skills. When I start off and I saw the topic and I said four, let me broadly divide it into four, which is your body language and your storytelling and your audience and how you start. But actually, there are small little tips that make so much of a difference as far as presentation skills are concerned. If you really want to practice your presentation skills, there are a lot of exercises that you will get, little games and little exercises that you will get, which will help you to structure your thoughts, speak better. Because a lot of times what happens is that we're so nervous now, our thoughts become disjointed. So, we start with something, then because we're nervous, we'll say something else, then something else will come. So always, take random topics. Once a week, take a random topic and sit in front of your phone and make like a little video out of it, right? Keep practicing, and you will keep getting better and better and better. And I will give you one more tip on online presentations, because so many of us are doing online presentations. My last tip for today, we're giving online presentations. What happens is that, there are so many windows. Some of them are also shut, right? So um, giving a presentation requires a lot of energy. When you can't see feedback and you can't see people, sometimes it throws you, and you don't know what to do. So when I started speaking, I'm a speaker. I'm used to speaking in front of audiences, giving workshops, speeches. And when people are there, this is what an energy, and then you also look at feedback on their faces, expressions. You know what you're doing right, you know what you're doing wrong. Here I can't make out, right? So what do you do? So I realized the best thing to do was to look at myself, because I mean, I need a face in front of me. And my face is the friendliest face right now. So, I'm smiling, I'm talking. And I always use my phone, because what happens in a phone Zoom is that, firstly, great cameras, so you just look better. And secondly, the top left will always be your window. So I will always look at my window, because I don't know, I don't see any windows. I don't see any people except for Peter. I can't see anybody. So, there are no windows. So whom do I look at? Well, I'm speaking. I look at myself, and I smile, and my presentation comes out very, very nice, because I'm speaking to the person who loves me the most, which is myself. And it makes me look very friendly. So that's a tip that has actually worked for me. I'm not joking. It's a tip that has actually worked for me, because where do you look? I need to draw energy when I'm speaking. So that's an online tip. Practice online. Just go do lives on Instagram, do lives on LinkedIn, give presentations on any topic. You have some content that you made around any topic, go live. I did that, and my skills, online presentation skills, really improved with that. All of last year, when the first lockdown happened, all of last year, we did I did, every day 5 o'clock weekdays, I would go live on Instagram. It gave me online skills. I learned how to speak to an audience that I couldn't see. So I was only looking at my face and speaking, and I actually learned a lot. I learned how to keep my energy high. I learned how to deal with the comments that were coming, which means feedback, real time feedback that was coming. So I actually learned a lot by doing live sessions on Instagram. So if you really want to practice and improve, it really depends on how focused you are in improving. I think presentation and communication skills will take you very, very far. It's a part of all our jobs, and if you want to create impact, you have an idea, convince your teams, your boss, you want get you want people to agree to your vision, you have to give good presentations. All leaders are good orators. All leaders, at least, it doesn't matter if you speak loud or if you speak strong. The idea, everybody has their own style. But if you look at Steve Jobs, if you look at Indra Nooyi, Barack Obama, these are all leaders who have used their oratory skills and their own styles to convince people of their vision. So presentation skills and oratory skills are critical, and you can only practice to get better. That's all I have to say. I'm really sorry for the mix up today. But I hope I've left you behind with some interesting tips, which you will use and you will practice. If you have any questions, please.
Thank you so much, Deepika. Before we move into the Q&A session, we will be initiating a poll to capture the feedback of our participants. So we'll request all our participants to kindly share your feedback on our today's session. While you're doing so, request all our participants to kindly post their questions pertaining to our today's session in the chat window. Once again, I thank all our participants for joining our session today. We have received a lot of inquiry about the e-certificate offered by HRAI. You can claim your certificate by sharing your details. When I say details, that is your name and session attended in an email to the email ID provided in the chat window. Please ensure you do so by the 30th of June 2021. We will email the e-certificate to you based on the details we receive. So, Deepika, we have a few questions out here that we have received. I would like to put that out to you. What are the key parameters for any presentation to be identified as a killer one?
Killer presentation. What are the key parameters?
Yes.
I think one is hmm, okay. So one is, of course, are you able to tell a story? Is there an outcome of the presentation? Right? Why did you give the presentation? Did you lead up to a conclusion or an outcome? Why have people spent 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour listening to you, right? So there should be a clear outcome. People should not feel, what was this? So there should be a clear outcome of any presentation. Was it an idea that you were sharing? Was it a research finding that you were sharing? Was it some plan that you were sharing? Was it a strategy plan that you were sharing? And what was the final result? You can't leave it at now we'll think about it. There has to be some outcome of the presentation, and it has to be delivered in the form of a story. So that's one clear, A to Z with Z in the outcome of the presentation, right? Secondly, is that study your audience beforehand. What you're saying, is it is your audience, is it relevant to your audience or not, right? So everything that you will say has to be relevant to your audience, right? So that's another thing. The third thing is that take audience feedback. Be careful to see, are people enjoying this? Are people understanding what you're saying? If at any point you feel that people are not understanding, ask, am I clear? Is there clarity in what I'm saying? Do you want me to go back to something? Do you want me to repeat something? So keep engaging with your audience. It's not a one-way communication. So keep engaging with your audience, keep asking them questions. Look confident. When you look confident, people want to listen to you. They think you're a subject matter expert. The minute you doubt yourself, your audience will doubt you, right? So you have to never let on. So they say, fake your confidence till you really make it. It's true. And faking your confidence is exactly what I spoke about. Your body language is what helps you to fake your confidence. Work on your body language so that it becomes a part of your nature. Sit like that, stand like that. You don't have to, even if you're dying of nervousness inside, you just look straighter, taller, and people think you're confident. Matlab, she knows what she's talking about. So I think these are the critical things that you must do. I saw a question.
Yeah, we have a question from Sapna Agarwal. She's asking, when we are presenting to senior and at times they don't like something early on,
Yes,
then you lose confidence. How to address this?
absolutely. So firstly, I made a video sometime back on my YouTube channel on this, on criticism. When somebody throws something at you, and you like criticism, Alia. Firstly, understand see, never take it personally. If somebody says that I don't like this, it's not personal. Maybe you started in a way that didn't really clarify what is it that your idea didn't come across clearly, or you started with something where the seniors, he wasn't expecting it, it wasn't in line with what he was expecting out of the presentation. So before you begin, also understand, like I said, know your audience. What is the audience looking for? So, and always build it up as a story. So you can't start with something which the audience is going to say no, and then you bring the other bit, to explain it, you bring it later, right? So treat it like a story. Now story make you decide what is point A, what is point B, what is point C, right? So if you're going to give an idea which you think will have issues, you don't start with the idea itself. You start with the research findings, you start with what. So just say that, okay, today we have to present, why we should be going with so and so agency and not so and so agency. But let me start by saying that we evaluated this and this, we saw that, and then we came to the conclusion that we should go with agency number two. You can't start with saying, okay, we've decided to go with agency number two. If your senior likes agency number one, wahin pe khatam, right? So say we have decided to go with agency number two. No, but agency one had a better creative. Yes, I'm coming to that, but nobody will listen, right? So understand what your story is. What is point A, what is point B, and what is point Z, your outcome, right? So know that very, very well, and then go into your presentation. In case someone still, throws something at you and says you're not liking it, or shows discomfort or dislike at what you're saying, turn around and ask what exactly is it, sir, if you could tell me, or ma'am, that you're not liking about this, I can address that. So understand that it's not personal, and don't take it personally. Say, oh my god, treat it like a learning and ask, so can you tell me exactly what you're not liking? Because the minute you ask that question, can you tell me what is it that you're not liking, people will have to give you a logical answer, and that's a learning, and that's also feedback. So instead of thinking, oh, now what, though, let me just stop this only, let me feel nervous and all, ask. There's no harm in asking. So somebody makes an expression, you have to be very mindful, and you have to get over your fear. So somebody makes an expression of, no, this is not working out. Or if somebody says, no, I don't agree with you, ask, but what exactly do you not agree with? Or if somebody's pulling faces and saying, so and so person does not seem to agree with me, can you tell me why? Or do you want me to, do you want me to explain something again? Fearlessly ask questions, and you will be better someone. Trust me. Nobody is going to say anything to
Beautifully answered, Deepika. We
you.
have a next question. That's how do I frame a fantastic story around my presentation topic so that people stay connected throughout?
So, like I said, stories are of two types. One is to use stories to explain something, right? I'll give you a very brief example. I had gone, so I love road trips, right? But on road trips, my husband at some one point was working with Castrol. He used to make me note down numbers of trucks because, those were potential clients. So typically, I note down the numbers. There were no phones to take photos with at that point. I would diligently note down numbers. After a point, on all my road trips, he didn't even have to tell me. I would carry one pen and paper and take down numbers of all, road trips. And he was so passionate about sales. The next week, he would go and crack those clients for Castrol. I recently had gone for a sales workshop for a client, and I told him the story. He was telling me about how sales is not passionate anymore. My sales team doesn't have that motivation, that passion. So I told him the story. I told him that, so many years back, this is what my husband used to do. And I feel that Castrol still owes me some money for all the numbers that I noted down. He said, exactly, that's the kind of passion I'm looking for. I got the project. Because I use a story to explain that I understand your problem. So the sales head was like, she knows what I'm talking about. She's got it. She's told me the story and she knows what I'm talking about. She's giving me an example of motivation and passion that somebody she knows had. She said, so he said, exactly, the I want my team to have same kind of passion. I got that project. Now, if I hadn't told that story, if I hadn't used storytelling, I would have fought the usual way, a price, ye mera rate hai, this kind of workshop I will do, so many modules, etc. I would have fought on that. But just by using storytelling, I got the project. Storytelling also means that when you're giving a presentation, like I said, what is the flow? Think about a movie, think about a story. There's always ek ke baad ek. It's not like, first something happened, then something else only happened. When you see a movie like that, you also think that ye kya tha? What was this? There's a logical flow to a story. Similarly, there has to be a logical flow to your presentation. So think of it like a movie. Why are you giving this presentation? What comes next? Etc. etc. Once you think like that, automatically your presentation will flow.
Beautifully answered. Thank you so much. We have one question, which is a very important one from Mickey. How to avoid stammering during online or live presentation, since I
So,
encounter with this problem often as I stammer.
this is a tough one. So it really depends on where the stamping is coming from. If sometimes it happens because you're nervous. So you start doing this. You start holding yourself back because you're feeling nervous about the topic, or you're feeling nervous about your audience. So there's an automatic reaction to that. I know of a lot of places that actually help you with this. I know a lot of stammering classes. I know of a lot of people who actually coach you and guide you through this. So you can actually online look that up. But a lot of time, so it really depends on, is it like a chronic, problem that you really need help with? Then I would suggest you do speak to a stammering coach, and there are a lot of them now. If it is something you see that happens only when you're under a very high pressure situation, then you learn how to deal with that high pressure situation. So you practice, you prepare. Like I said, prepare for everything that can be thrown at you. Practice your body language. Keep on giving presentations. The only way to get better at presentation is to just do it. You will keep better doing something better if you do it continuously, right? Suddenly one day you're not going to become a good speaker. So keep giving presentations, keep going live, offer to give presentations where there's a group activity, you know, and you, it requires, public speaking is not something that theoretically you can learn. You know, it has to be done. It has to be practiced. Only then will you get better. So keep on practicing. And if your content is good, if you're able to hold the audience's attention, then the stammering doesn't count. It really doesn't matter. If it is something that you have, then it won't matter as long as you're able to give great content to people.
Rightly answered, Deepika. We have one more question. Um, how do I do slide selections to suit the particular presentation? What all things we should consider? Any kind of parameters that we need to keep in mind
Hmm.
while we include, or the details that we include in
So
the slide?
I'm a very non PPT, non slide person. I've realized that attention spans are so low nowadays. I I have a choice. Either I want people to focus on what I'm saying, or I can get people to focus on the slides. I prefer the form. But having said that, when you're giving a lot of yarn and a lot of information, you do need to have a presentation. You do need to have slides, right? Always keep your slides minimum. You know, depend upon your ability to speak and explain rather than put all the content on the slides. Otherwise, then they're reading. तो बोलने का जरूरत ही नहीं. Don't speak. Just put it up. Slide number 1, please read. Slide number 2, please read. Keep it minimum. You can keep like your headings, and you can keep like little things, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Just keep little heading, just keep little whatever, and that is it. What you need to do. Just keep minimal copy on your slides. That's it.
So usually most of the people do make this mistake of putting a lot of content in the slide, and that's where they go wrong.
Absolutely not required. You just need the topic heading or just what you're going to be talking about. Keep it clean, keep it minimal. Your job is to explain and convince, not the slides job. The slide is just support. It supports that it's an anchor for people to know what you're going to be talking about. So this section is going to be this section is going to be that, and just main headings. Never put copy and text under the headings to explain. Just main headings so that they know what you're going to be talking about. I would suggest that's the only, you depend upon yourself to explain and to convince people.
Absolutely. Our next question, that is, how do I know after the presentation that was it really good? Was it a really good show or something else? Or what mistakes I did and where did I do good? Obviously, the feedback
Your
aspect.
audience, learn to read your audience. Really learn to read your audience. How many people are actually listening to you? How many people are, so I do a lot of interaction. So today I haven't, but I try and do a lot of interaction. Raise your hand. How many people are actually listening to me? Throw in a question. But also, if you add a little bit of humor, if you add a little bit of a joke somewhere, it'll wake people up, and people like relatable stories and people. So the more relatable your presentation is, the more people are going to stay with you. But I think, reading audience feedback is critical. For me, it is critical to know if I have 50 people in front of me who are listening to me, and if I feel I'm losing audience attention, how can I quickly arrest it? Has one point gone on too long? Has something else happened? And always come back and evaluate where could I have possibly gone wrong. And at the end of a good presentation, people will come and tell you. Most people will come and tell you, that was a great job. Or if they ask you a specific question about a specific point, then you know that people were listening to you and you made a point that they wanted to come and talk to you about it. So these are signals that over time, like I said, you will have to read. What we do is we give a presentation and then we sit down, really, ho gaya, nahi. Your work is also to evaluate, to understand feedback. If people question me on this, that means I did not make a point. So keep learning from every presentation. If you don't learn from every presentation, you will never get better.
Thank you so much, Deepika. It was a great session. Beautiful learnings and takeaway. The one aspect that I've noted is practice. Practice makes a man perfect. It has been a pleasure being with you today. I'm sure our participants have had a lot to learn and take away from this session. Before
Hmm.
we conclude with our today's session, we would also want to thank the association members, Geisha, NASCOM COE, LinkedIn Local, Talgroup, TLE, WICCI, and ClipTalk for supporting these HRAI events. To know more about these associations, request you to kindly visit the link and details provided in the chat window. Thank you once again, dear speaker, and our participants for joining us today. Do join us for our next masterclass tomorrow on the topic WAH Zindagi, a, a session by Mr. Ashish Singh, Global MD and Chief Talent Officer, Star Consulting Global, on the 25th of June 2021. Request you to kindly register for this event at the link mentioned in the chat window. Also to join the Dialogue 2021 WhatsApp chat group through the invite link shared in the chat window. That's it from us today. See you soon. Stay safe, take care, and bye for now. Keep learning. Thank you. Thank you, Sapna. Thank you, Mickey. Thank you, Sham. We hereby conclude with our today's session.